Before sunrise, the dew-laden field behind the county sheriff's station was already alive with soft grunts and the rustle of straw. Here, in a specially fenced training enclosure known as the Forensics Farm, Officer Hamlet, a robust Belgian large white pig of prodigious girth, began his day. His pink hide, mottled with smudges of mud and corn mash, shone faintly in the lantern light as he rose on sturdy trotters. The air carried the mingled scent of fresh oats, pine shavings, and the faintest hint of chemical reagents from nearby training scenarios. Hamlet's handlers, Detectives Maria Ramirez and Nolan Cooper, greeted him with familiar pats and gentle scratches behind the ears. "Morning, Baconator," Ramirez murmured, fastening his custom K9 harness. Cooper chuckled, producing a handful of apple slices, Hamlet's favorite reward. With a delighted snort, the pig accepted the treat, crunching the juicy morsels with relish. Their first task lay beside a muddy trench dug into the field's center. Ramirez whispered, "Time to find that buried gun." The straw-strewn trench contained a mock crime scene. A handgun sputtered with simulated powder residue, partially buried beneath broken glass and discarded cigarette butts. Hamlet approached, nose quivering. He inhaled deeply, flicking his ears as he parsed the layered aromas: tobacco, spent propellant, and the acrid coppery tang of gunmetal. Step by deliberate step, Hamlet nosed along the trench's edge until his snout dug into a soggy patch of soil. With an eager grunt, he began rooting, flinging clods of earth aside until the handle of the mock pistol glinted in the dawn gloom. A jubilant snort signaled Ramirez to retrieve the weapon for fingerprint dusting and ballistic marking. Next came a series of tests for narcotics detection. Along a winding path of hay bales, technicians had concealed vials of powdered stimulants, sedatives, and other contraband. Hamlet trotted the course, nose low, whiskers brushing hay fibers. At each hidden cache, whether beneath a bale or tucked inside a hollowed log, he paused, let out a precise snort, and pawed the spot. Cooper recorded each hit, marveling at how the pig's olfactory prowess rivaled any bloodhound. By midday, Hamlet had triumphed over simulations of arson accelerants, explosive residues, and even trace chemicals from fiber-dissolving agents used by car thieves. Each success earned him a trove of peanuts, apple chunks, and affectionate rubs. Farmhands whispered in the feed trough line, "He's the best nose we've ever seen," and even the most skeptical detectives began requesting Hamlet's services on tough cases. But on this 10th deployment's eve, as the moon rose pale above the swaying grasses, Hamlet sensed an unfamiliar undercurrent in the night air. Away from the simulated trenches and hay bale courses, a distant, acrid tang teased at the edges of his senses, chemicals he had only encountered in the classroom. He sniffed the breeze, nostrils flaring, the sharp sting of pseudoephedrine byproducts, the vegetal hint of stolen battery acid, and the unmistakable bite of liquid meth precursors. In that moment, Officer Hamlet stood silent in the moonlight, tail curled between sturdy legs, mind racing. This was no drill. Somewhere across the meadow and beyond the farm's boundary lay a real clandestine lab, and Hamlet's crime scene snout would soon leave the pens, rooting out a living, dangerous operation. The hog's eyes gleamed with purpose. A new challenge had come, and the Baconator was ready. The moon hung low and golden as Detective Cooper guided the unmarked SUV off the gravel road and into a shadowed clearing behind the dilapidated dairy facility. Tall cornstalks rustled in the night breeze, hiding the barrel-chested shipping container where County Intelligence suspected the meth lab was operating. Cooper killed the engine. All was still except for the distant call of an owl. He crouched beside the rear door and gently lifted the latch, revealing Hamlet's silhouette framed by the dim glow of the dashboard light. "Ready, boy?" Cooper whispered, kneeling to adjust the harness strap beneath Hamlet's stout belly. The pig snuffled once, nostrils quivering with anticipation. In his snout pocket, he carried a single apple slice, his lucky charm for good finds. Cooper patted his curly head and signaled Ramirez via radio. "Team Alpha, eyes sharp. Baconator's on the scent." They approached the container's entrance, a heavy steel door secured by a padlock. Ramirez inserted metal gloves and pried it open with practiced ease. Inside, yellow-tinted bulbs cast harsh shadows over rows of plastic barrels and stainless steel kettles, each rim smeared with chemical crust. A pungent tang of ammonia and solvents stung Cooper's nose, but Hamlet inhaled deeply, head swiveling as he traced an invisible trail. Step by careful step, the pig moved into the lab's heart. His trotters clacked on the concrete floor, patched with chemical stains. Cooper and Ramirez exchanged a glance. This wasn't a simple stash house. This was full-scale production. But as long as Hamlet was on the job, they had a fighting chance. Hamlet paused near a battered workbench, sniffing the air thick with the coppery aroma of gunpowder, far stronger than any meth precursor. Cooper frowned. That's odd. Powder in the same spot as the amphetamines? He knelt to inspect the floor. Tiny metallic flecks glinted among the spilled white crystal. Ramirez nodded. Could be traces from illicit weapon testing. Bad news if they're armed. Hamlet pressed his snout to a seam in the cement and let out 2 emphatic snorts, his signal for a high-value find. Cooper knelt and swept away dirt to reveal a half-buried Glock. The serial number had been filed off, but barrel swabs still bore powder residue. Cooper snapped gloves on and bagged the weapon as evidence. Behind them, tools clattered, a guard rounding the corner. But before he could shout, Hamlet launched into action, grunting and squealing, his bulk barreling forward to block the doorway with his bristling flank. The startled trafficker stumbled back, giving Ramirez time to draw her flashlight and tackle him to the ground. In moments, the rest of the tactical team poured in, handcuffing 2 more men who emerged blinking from the rear storage area. As dawn's first rays pierced the container's slatted windows, Hamlet stood victorious among the arrested suspects, muddy snout raised in triumph. Later, back at headquarters, news crews huddled around a podium where Chief Lawson extolled the pig's unparalleled nose. Cooper and Ramirez beamed as Hamlet nosed a fresh apple slice from the detective's coat pocket, his modest reward for dismantling the county's largest meth production operation to date. And as cameras flashed, the Baconator simply snorted once, turned, and trotted toward his sty, already dreaming of tomorrow's case. A week after the meth lab bust, Hamlet found himself summoned to a weathered farmhouse on the outskirts of town. Dawn's pale light revealed a muddy yard pockmarked with boot prints and tire tracks, evidence of a recent string of burglaries. Copper gutters had been pried from the eaves, power tools vanished from the shed, and the farmhouse's aging rifle, passed down through generations, lay stolen. Detectives Ramirez and Cooper stood by the door, watching as Hamlet's snout quivered in the crisp morning air. "Hamlet, we need you to sort through these tracks," Cooper said softly, kneeling beside a boot print filled with rainwater and clay. The yard's mud was a jigsaw of overlapping prints: work boots, running sneakers, even a horseshoe imprint from a stray Mustang. Hamlet dipped his snout, inhaled deeply, and then pivoted toward a less disturbed patch beneath a downed tree branch. With a precise grunt, he signaled his handler. Cooper knelt and examined the subtle chemical hint in that print. A faint tang of gun oil, likely from the stolen rifle's barrel. Following Hamlet's lead, the detectives in the pig traced that singular scent through thick mud out to a pair of rotting hay bales beside the barn. Hamlet pressed his broad forehead against the bales, snorting twice. Ramirez shone her flashlight behind the straw, revealing a small trapdoor in the floorboards. Cooper pried it open to expose a trove of stolen items. Power drills, camping gear, and there, its polished wood stock glinting in the beam, the missing family rifle. Hamlet oinked triumphantly as Cooper lifted the rifle, careful not to disturb latent fingerprints. Back at the station, prosecutors prepared mugshots of 2 suspects detained nearby, local drifters known for petty thefts. But the case hinged on the rifle's presence. Ballistic tests confirmed the recovered gun matched shell casings found at other burglary sites, and its unique oak grain pattern tied it unmistakably to the farmhouse's heirloom weapon. In court, the defense lawyer spluttered at the notion of a pig's testimony, but Hamlet's mud-splattered hoofprints, photographed and plotted across maps of the crime scenes, provided incontrovertible evidence of the crook's flight path and the rifle's hidden cache. By afternoon's end, the jury returned a swift guilty verdict on both counts: burglary and weapons possession. Outside the courthouse, reporters jostled to photograph the crime scene hog strutting proudly beside Ramirez. Hamlet received a hero's welcome and, after a slobbery autograph request, his signature, a muddy snout print, trotted back to the forensics farm. As Cooper scratched behind his ears, Hamlet settled into his straw with a contented grunt. already imagining tomorrow's adventure and the next trail his snout would unravel. The moon was a pale sliver behind high clouds when Detective Ramirez and Cooper rolled Hamlet toward the waterfront warehouse in a battered wooden crate. The container's sides bore streaks of mud and painted stripes that matched the ring's legitimate art transport services vans. By day, the warehouse sat empty, its wide bay doors chained shut. But tonight, the thieves used it as a temporary holding pen for stolen paintings, sculptures, and high-end electronics. Cooper parked the van 80 feet from the warehouse and flicked off the headlights. The only illumination came from a single amber bulb above the service entrance. Ramirez slipped the key into the padlock mechanism and clicked it softly. The lock gave way with a muted snap. Even the smallest sound risked alerting the sentries, so they worked in silence. Hamlet, bristling inside the crate, nosed the slats in eager anticipation, his cloven feet shifting against the straw lining. Once the door swung inward, the detectives nudged the crate into the building's gloom. The air smelled of oil paint, fresh pine beams, and the faint metallic tang of copper wiring from recently dismantled home security systems. Hamlet's snout twitched at each layered scent, mapping the layout with precision. Ramirez crouched behind a stack of empty wooden pallets, while Cooper positioned a spotlight at the far end of the hall. Cooper whispered, "Whenever you're ready, officer." With a practiced flick, Ramirez opened the crate door a hair's breadth. Hamlet leapt out and landed with surprising stealth on the concrete floor. He paused for a breath, letting his snout trail across the polished leg of an overturned easel. A faint residue of lacquer thinner and the ghost of tobacco smoke clung to the canvas tarps. Suddenly, distant footfalls echoed. 2 guards rounding a corner. Hamlet froze, ears pricked. As they approached, he emitted a single sharp snort, his signal of illicit activity. The guards halted, flashlights sweeping the darkness. Before they could call out, Hamlet exploded into action, charging toward the nearer beam and forcing a misstep. The startled sentinel tripped over a coiled extension cord, sending a jangle of metal into the air. At Ramirez's nod, the SWAT team burst through a side door. Helmets glinted, weapons trained as they advanced in formation. Hamlet trotted ahead, nose low to the ground, leading them down narrow aisles of stolen goods. He paused at a crate labeled Emerald Isle Collection, its freshly painted padlock still warm. 3 priceless statuettes peeked from within. Cooper signaled, and officers swarmed the crate, lifting its lid. The thieves, pinned beneath spotlight glare, shouted in confusion as handcuffs clicked shut. In under 2 minutes, the warehouse was secured. Dozens of works of art, electronics, and rare artifacts lay untouched, each one traced back to the crime ring's list of missing items. Hamlet, tail wagging, received a hero's pat from Ramirez and a hearty slice of apple from Cooper. Though the moon had edged toward dawn, the Baconator's eyes still gleamed with the thrill of the stakeout well played, and another criminal enterprise brought to its knees by a pig's unerring nose. Sunlight filtered through the slatted windows of the sheriff's barn, a cozy outbuilding that housed Hamlet's sty and the department's evidence lockers, painting golden stripes across the pens. Inside, the air was thick with the mingled scents of hay, pine shavings, and the faint tang of gunpowder from Hamlet's latest bust. Today was no ordinary morning. Banners reading, "Thank you, Hamlet," fluttered in the breeze, and yellow, "Police line, do not cross" tape cordoned off a small podium at the center of the barnyard. Detectives Ramirez and Cooper arrived early, ensuring all the departmental brass had assembled. The sheriff in crisp blues, the county commissioner in a tailored suit, and even local journalists clutching notepads and cameras. At the edge of the crowd, Hamlet, his bristles scrubbed clean of mud, stood proud in a freshly fitted K9 vest emblazoned with a miniature badge. His little snout twitched as guests murmured their thanks, and his curly tail wagged a slow, earnest rhythm. Sheriff Douglas tapped the microphone stand, creating a soft echo in the open-air structure. He cleared his throat. "Today, we honor an officer unlike any other. A snout so sensitive it's led to the seizure of dangerous meth labs, the recovery of stolen heirlooms, and the downfall of an organized art theft ring. Please join me in recognizing Sergeant Hamlet, our crime scene hog." Applause rippled through the barnyard as Ramirez stepped forward, holding a polished wooden plaque engraved with Hamlet's name and service record. Cooper followed with a silver trough-shaped medal, its ribbon looped around the little pig's harness. for exceptional bravery, relentless dedication, and the finest snout in law enforcement, Cooper declared, fastening the medal just above Hamlet's shoulder. Hamlet emitted a proud squeal as the crowd burst into cheers. Children pressed against the fence, offering apples and carrots, which he accepted with dainty slurps and nods of gratitude. Reporters jockeyed for position, and one brave camerawoman leaned down to capture Hamlet's snout print pressed gently into an ink pad, his autograph, for the department's scrapbook. After the formalities, the sheriff led Hamlet to his favorite reward, a platter piled high with apple cider donuts, glazed and steaming. Cooper winked at Ramirez as Hamlet savored his treat, crumbs dusting the straw at his trotters. "Don't tell him it's all downhill from here," Ramirez joked. "He might hog the whole investigation staff next time." As the ceremony wound down, Hamlet wandered back to his sty, where fresh straw had been laid. He settled into the cozy enclosure, battered vest gleaming in the beam of the rising sun. The barnyard emptied, but the echoes of applause and the soft murmur of gratitude lingered in the air. That afternoon, Detective Cooper recorded a training video for new recruits. On screen, he held up a snout-sized badge. "Remember, not all heroes walk on 2 legs, or 4 paws," he said with a grin. "Some snuffle on trotters, and they'll sniff out the truth when you least expect it." Upstairs in headquarters, the court clerk filed away the final case report from Hamlet's art theft investigation. Over the barnyard speakers, a tinny rendition of Hogan's Heroes played as Hamlet drifted into a well-earned nap. His dreams were filled with the scent of hidden clues and unturned earth, tomorrow's trails ready to crack the next case wide open. And somewhere in his slumber, the crime scene hog's tail gave one last, contented wag. Proof that heroism can come in any shape, size, or species, as long as you follow the scent of justice.